Hey everybody, how are you today? It's Miss Greta back again to talk some more trash with you. Today, we're going to talk some more about our municipal solid waste, which remember from our other video, that just means trash. We're going to talk some more about our trash. And today we're going to break it down and we're going to build together a garbage pizza. Does that sound yummy? No, not the kind you eat. We're gonna build one like a pie chart that some of you might have already be doing in math, right? To talk about exactly what our municipal solid waste or our trash is made up of. So, and this is, we're talking about the trash for everybody, okay? So not just like what does your trash look like at home, or what we might find in the trash can or the dumpster at school, but everywhere, for our businesses, our restaurants, our factories, all our people at home and schools too, and all over, because all that trash, not just the trash that we deal with or we think of or we see, but all of that trash, all that municipal solid waste has to be disposed of some kind of way, right? So I'm going to show you here my garbage pizza. You see that? It looks just like a pie chart, doesn't it? It does. And we're going to talk first about this big piece, that big piece of pizza right there. That big piece is our paper. So let's just go back just a minute, right? This whole circle, that's 100%, isn't it? The whole pizza pie, the whole thing is 100%, right? That's all of it. Our biggest portion, our biggest piece of our trash is paper, okay? Our paper makes up 28.5%. So that's over a quarter, over 1/4 of all of the trash is paper. And now these statistics are just a little bit old, so this might have changed somewhat. It might change a little bit, but it's probably still pretty accurate. So that's going to be our paper like we use at school and our paper that we use at home, all those paper products that we use, right? And also is going to be newspapers, magazines, books, everything that you can think of, packaging, paper packaging, right? The paper board, like our cereal boxes and all those kinds of things, right? Our cardboard stuff's probably included in there too. All those things that are made from paper. And we all know that paper comes from trees, right? We make our paper from trees. So all of this paper, not only a lot of it it can be recycled, right? But also we got to remember that it's important to recycle that paper, not just to keep it out of the landfill, but so that we're using less trees to produce more paper. Because if we can recycle that paper, we keep it out of landfill and we're saving trees. We're saving trees by doing that, which is really important because we need trees. We need trees to breathe, don't we? Okay. And then next, let's see. Yep. Next, this piece right here is our 13.9% is food scraps. So that's going to be not just our chicken bones, but also our fruit and vegetable peelings, our eggshells, that bowl of cereal you didn't eat all of, all those food scraps takes up a pretty big piece, doesn't it? 13.9% of our waste is food scraps. And I bet some of you probably can remember pretty well one of the things that we can do to cut back on our food scrap waste that goes into the landfill. We can compost it, right? Not everything, not the chicken bones. No, we can't compost the chicken bones. They're just going to have to go to the landfill. But those orange peels and those apple cores and the green beans that you didn't eat all of, those kind of things can go into our compost. Our tea bags, even our coffee grounds, those kind of things can go into our compost. So that big 13.9%, a lot of that can be composted to cut back on what ends up in our landfill. And now the next, almost the same size there on our pizza, is our yard trimmings. The yard trimmings, 13.4% of our waste is yard trimmings. That's our grass clippings. That's maybe a plant that died or didn't work out. Weeds when we weed our garden. Our branches and leaves when we trim the trees, or in the fall time when we rake up all of our leaves so they're not all over the ground. All those yard trimmings. And we surely don't have to put those into the landfill, do we? No, most of those can be composted as well. And depending on where you live, sometimes we might just, when we trim the tree and or rake the leaves, throw those extra scraps off near the edge of the yard or off in the woods somewhere, right? And it can rot and decompose there and go back into nature. It doesn't have to end up in the landfill, does it? And now, next is going to be our plastics. 12.4% of our municipal solid waste is plastic. And I would say a pretty good percentage of that can probably be recycled. Around here, we recycle our number ones and our number twos, don't we? So that's like our water bottles and soda pop bottles and milk jugs and juice jugs and things like that. Sometimes our laundry detergent bottles, some of the times those are ones or twos, things like that. And then also Miss Mika talked to you all about how we can recycle the plastic film. Those are, I think, number fours. Our plastic bags, like our grocery bags or our produce bags. Sometimes other bags that come in packaging can work like that too. Those can be recycled by returning them to the stores. And even if there's not a store taking them right now, in normal times we can return all those number 4 plastic bags to a store, and they can get recycled and turned into new plastic bags or something else. And then what else is plastic? There are some plastics that are just going to end up in the landfill. Some of them are, like some of those the cellophane type plastics, things like that. Or some of our number 5s and 6s and stuff like that might end up, it's going to just kind of end up in the landfill. So what we can do to try to cut back on that kind of waste, those plastics that are not recyclable, is we can reduce them by not buying them in the first place, can't we? So when we're shopping in the store and we pick up something that has a plastic container, just flip it over and check the bottom before you even buy it. And say, you know what, that's a number 5. I'm going to put that one back on the shelf, and I'm going to see if this same product, my peanut butter or whatever it is I'm buying, is packaged by another brand in a number 1 or a number 2, so I can recycle it here when I'm done. And let's see here. Okay, next is our metals. Our metals and our rubbers and textiles pretty close there, isn't it? But our metals is 9%. 9% is our metals. What all does our metal look like? Well, we know we recycle the aluminum cans, don't we? And then we might have like old tools and things. There's all kinds of different metals, aren't there? And the interesting thing about metal is that not all of it, but most metals are not only recyclable, but they're valuable. That means they're worth money. That means you can get paid to recycle your metals. There's a place right over there in Morristown that will take your aluminum cans and other various metals, and they will give you money for it. Now it's by weight, so like if you have aluminum cans, they're really light, so it would take a lot of aluminum cans for you to get very much money, but still they're getting recycled, getting made into something new, and you're getting paid to do it. You get paid to recycle it. And one of the really cool things about aluminum is that aluminum can be recycled over and over and over again for nearly forever. So that one aluminum can get turned into another aluminum can and another aluminum can or something else aluminum over and over and over again. As long as it keeps getting recycled, it will never end up in the landfill. So important to try to recycle our metals. And then let's see, really close in that one, this is our 8.4%, is rubber, leather, and textiles. So our rubber, and now we don't recycle it around here, but like rubber tires, some places, there are facilities that can recycle tires. And you all may have seen one of the examples I like to use is when we've recycled rubber, it can be used for lots of different things. And like if you all have been to the city park since it got redone this past year and walked on that spongy ground on that new part of the playground, that is probably made from recycled rubber. So there's lots of cool things that they can do with rubber once it gets recycled. Our leather, that might be parts of shoes, that might be belts, that might be jackets. There might be some kind of ways. Now, there used to be leather workers that would take leather and tailor it into something new. They might be pretty hard to find nowadays. But depending on what it is, maybe you can reuse it into something else, or maybe you can get it to somebody who can. And then textiles. So we've got 3 different things all grouped into that piece of pizza there, don't we? Our textiles, that's like our clothes. That's like our things that are made from cloth. Our clothes, our curtains, our towels, things like that, okay? So let's talk about what we can do with those instead of throwing them away. With your clothing, now for you kiddos, most of you are probably growing out of your clothing before you're wearing it out. So you're probably ready to get rid of something just because it's too small, not because there's anything wrong with it. So some of that stuff can be donated. Maybe you're already doing that. Maybe you have a cousin who's a little bit younger than you and they get your hand-me-downs. You're already reusing your textiles because you're donating your clothes, giving them down to your little cousin or something like that. But if you're not, you can take those clothes once you've outgrown them and you can donate them. You can donate them here in Newport to Empower. They'll take them. They'll take all those clothes, even the clothes that maybe do have holes in them or are stained or ripped up and you think nobody's going to want to use that. Empower will take those too, because the clothes that maybe you just grew out of or nobody wants anymore, but they're in good shape, they're going to get donated to the thrift store. And if there's somebody that needs clothes, they get to come and get them for free. And if there's somebody that just wants to shop for new clothes, they can shop in the thrift store and buy those clothes. But the ones that are stained or have holes in them and seem no good anymore, guess what they're going to do? They're going to recycle it. Yes, they are. Now, we didn't talk a lot about clothing being recycling or textiles being recyclable before because there's not a lot of places that are able to do it. But Empower, Cotton County, can take all those textiles, and they have somebody that comes and collects them, and it gets recycled, and that stuff gets made into something new. Okay, and lastly, our textiles we're talking about our old towels and blankets. Those kind of things, even if it's stained up or got holes in it, those can be donated to our local animal shelter. Because those little puppy dogs, they do not care if that is stained up or it has a hole in it or not. They are happy to have something soft to snuggle up on. Okay, so we can really recycle almost all of our textiles. All right, now let's see here. Next, we're getting close here. Next is wood. 6.4% are things that are made of wood. And now there's a lot of things that we can do to keep our wood out of the landfill. If we have maybe some furniture that we're just getting rid of because we're buying new stuff, please, by all means, let's donate that. Let's give that to somebody else that could use it, right? Or maybe it's something that's just a little bit broken. You might be surprised at that somebody that can fix it up and take care of it. Or depending on what we have, a lot of us, we might end up, even though when we burn something, that smoke is going to pollute the air. If you've got something that is just solid wood and doesn't have any other materials on it, it might be better just to burn it there instead of putting it in the landfill, because it's going to take a really long time to decompose once it gets mixed in the landfill with everything else. Of course, we want to make sure we're never burning anything that's plastic or rubber or anything else, because that puts really bad chemicals into the air. We wouldn't want to do that. But if it's just something that's just plain wood, that might be even better, a better option than taking it to the landfill. And then our last little tiny sliver over here is our glass. The glass is 4.6%. 4.6% is glass. And we've talked before about how our glass is recyclable. It is possible to recycle glass. But as of now, here in Cotton County and in all of East Tennessee, we don't have a glass crusher, so we don't have a way to recycle our glass. Oh, maybe there's one in Knox County. Ms. Mika told me there is a glass crusher in Knox County, so that was new to me. So in Knox County, maybe if you are willing to take that trip, if you save up your glass, if you had a lot of glass, you can get that glass to Knox County and they can recycle it. And that would really be a big, good deed to do, because glass is not going to decompose ever. It's just going to sit there forever and ever. And that 4.6% might seem like just a little tiny piece of the pie, but when we're talking about something that is never, ever going to decompose, that does make a big difference. And again, with the glass, that's something that we can, number one, reduce by maybe choosing not to buy it in the first place. If we're talking about buying a glass jar of jelly in the store. Maybe we can find the plastic one that's recyclable instead, or we can reuse it, right? Those glass jars they're really handy. They're pretty valuable too. So instead of buying your mason jars to use for things, you could just reuse those jelly jars, spaghetti sauce jars, or whatever you have. They make good drinking jars. You can reuse them for all kinds of things. All right, so let's take another good look there at what makes up our garbage pizza. All of that waste. So much of it is paper. Isn't that kind of a surprise? That much of it would be paper? That's a lot, isn't it? And a big percentage of this waste can be kept out of the landfill as long as we take the time to do that work and make those smart decisions to reduce, reuse, recycle, compost. We can cut back on that big old pizza that ends up in the landfill and cut it down to maybe just a little tiny slice, can't we? We sure can. So I want y'all to keep those things in mind, and when you're going to throw something away in the trash can, think about it for a minute and think of maybe it's recyclable, maybe it's compostable, maybe there's a way that you can reuse it or something else we can do with it so it doesn't end up in the landfill, okay? Thank you for listening. Y'all have a good day. See you next time.